The next time you have a how am I going to question, I want you to change that thing to an affirmation so that you can walk in your authority and so that you can remember who the author is. Oh, yeah, because once you remember who the author is, you're going to start to realize that he has all the how is in him. Welcome to the place where visionaries, leaders, and kingdom builders come when you are in the alley as I help you discover the keys to unlock your next level of clarity, strategy, and confidence. I'm Dr. LaTanya. Welcome back to my channel. It's Dr. LaTanya here to help you unlock your next level, especially if you're in the alley. Let me tell you how important it is to not focus on the how, but the who. Okay? Have you ever been in a place, visionary, where you begin to get a vision from God, begin to get a dream from God, begin to feel like there are some next steps, and you are wondering, but how? How am I going to make this happen? How am I going to make this work? How are these resources coming in? How am I supposed to do this alone? How? Right? Have you ever been there? Or is it just me? Because I have definitely been in several times, several places, several spaces where I am asking God for the how. And I love seeking God for strategy, and I feel like we all love to seek God for strategy. So I like to give you this strategy because it is one thing that helped me move beyond asking about the how and being so clear about the who that the how came. Okay, let's go. Well, I was in prayer one morning, and I normally spend time with God, some time with God in the morning. I have this morning routine that I do, although my extensive time with him is in the evening because I am not your 5:30 a.m. girly. I am the 5:30 p.m. girly, okay? And I love that for me because that is the time that God and I really have together. But I learned that, being a kingdom CEO, that I have to get up and seek him for instructions every single day. And that really started and kicked off this really time with him where I began to submit, where I began to, get instructions and all of those things. And so one morning I am asking God about a how. And I said, God, how am I going to ... Insert yours there if you want to. How am I going to ... And I heard God say something so monumental, so transformative, so eye-opening, mind-blowing that it shifted how I asked questions. So I said, God, how am I going to? And I heard God say, turn the question into a statement and the how will come. I was like, wait a minute. Say what now? Turn the question into a statement and the how will come. And so instead of me saying, how am I going to? I turned that question into a statement. And I said, I am going to. And when I did that, all of a sudden, something started to rise up in me. And I began to say over and over again, let determination rise up in me. Let determination rise up in me. And I kept repeating myself and saying it over and over again. It was almost like my mind was coming into agreement with what I was saying. My heart was coming into agreement. My spirit was coming into alignment with what I was saying. And the more I said that, let determination rise up in me, the more I said that, the how came. Oh my goodness. It was such an aha moment, such a revelatory moment that I had with God because God was like, listen, I got the how for you, but I need you to trust me first. And if you trust me with it, then I want you to just make a declaration to say, I am going to trust me with it and I'll give you the how. It reminds me of how so many Bible characters, when God is asking them to do something, I remember, especially, I love Genesis. I absolutely love Genesis. I read Genesis all the time. It's just so many revelatory stories in Genesis. So many new beginnings. So I love how many Bible characters say, here I am, Lord. The Lord is asking Moses to do something. The Lord is asking Abraham to do something. And they're like, here I am, Lord. They haven't asked how, And so one of the things that I know for sure is that God is calling us into a new level of this affirmation to say, I am going to, right? And to be really solid and take a stand and come into agreement with the fact that no matter what he told us to do, no matter what he's sending us out for, we know that yes, we agree. We say, here I am, and then we move into whatever the strategies are, because God then gives us the how. Okay? We don't have to worry about the how as visionaries, as kingdom builders, because we know the who. And as long as we know the who, he will give us the how. But here's what I realized when God took me through this that morning, that 3 things began to happen. 3 things. And I'd love to say that these 3 things were all aha moments, but I feel like they began to come over time. There are 3 things that I recognized that I was doing the moment that God shifted my mindset on this. The first thing that I began to see was that I was making an affirmation. Yes, I am going to is an affirmation. I started to affirm and come into agreement with whatever it was that God was telling me to do, or whatever it was that was in my mind that to me did not have an answer. And the moment that I started to come into agreement, again, that determination started to rise up in me, and it made me say, you know what? I'm going to do this. I am going to do this. And something happened that clicked on. Affirmations are synonymous with declarations. You begin to declare some things. It's like you set your foot firm on that thing, and in your mind it clicks for you to become that thing, right? And so I realized that I was making an affirmation the moment I said, I am going to. And something began to shift. And then that takes me into number 2. I realized another thing that began to happen here. I began to walk in authority. All of a sudden, the moment I said, I am going to, authority rose up in me. And I said, yeah, that's right. I know who my daddy is. I know that he owns all of this. I know that he will make a way out of no way. I know that. So authority started to rise up in me, so much so that there was no doubt in my mind that it could happen. There was no doubt in my mind about what was about to happen, you know? And so that authority helped me to move into another level of also gaining access to the how. Because you know how it is. Have you ever been in a place before and you're like, I'm determined to do something. I'm going to move in the authority. I have the decision-making power here because it's been granted to me. And when you have that decision-making power, the how will come. You will make a decision and then you will decide how the thing is going to happen when you have decision-making power. Where God had just given me decision-making power, the moment that I said, I am going to, he gave me decision-making power. And I started to rise up in my authority. Something begins to shift when I rise up in my authority. And when you rise up in your authority, you get a different, and we used to say swag about you. Does anybody even use that word anymore? You get a little different walk. Your stance is a little bit different. When you start to rise up in your authority, you begin to take ownership of some stuff. You begin to say, you know what? That's right. It's me. I just arrived on the scene and I'm going to take authority and take possession of everything that belongs to me as well. Okay? So authority started to rise up in me. And then the third thing that I began to notice, the moment that I switched from how am I going to I am going to, oh my goodness, it's almost like I got connected again with the author and finisher of my faith. Why? Because visionary, when God has given us something, when he has given us something to do, and when he is giving us an instruction, we're worried about the how and we're forgetting about the who. We forget that he is the author. He is the author and the finisher, the Alpha and the Omega. Come on now. And because of that, then we can stand boldly in not knowing the how and not knowing all the steps, and stand boldly in that affirmation of I am going to, in order for that how to be released. Let me tell you something. The next time you have a how am I going to question, I want you to change that thing to an affirmation so that you can walk in your authority and so that you can remember who the author is. Oh, yeah, because once you remember who the author is, you're going to start to realize that he has all the how is in him. All the solutions are in Him. All the results come through Him. And because of that, you're going to see a completely different level of questioning. When I tell you this thing shifted my mindset of how I even question God, and I asked the Lord a lot of questions. Okay, I'm always asking some questions. But let me tell you how this thing shifted me. I did not continue to go into my prayer time in the mornings asking how anything. Every time I had a how in my mind, I switched it on paper and I would say, I am going to. And I would start to write a list of everything under that bullet, everything under that bullet point that I had written out, that affirmation. And I would start to write all the hows, all the strategies, all the things. When I tell you they flowed from my mind so effortlessly, and they will for you too. Here's what I want you to try. I want you to take a moment and write down every single question you have for God. How am I going to, right? How am I going to? The things that are just wondering, floating around in your mind, how am I going to? And I want you to take every single one of those questions, turn every single one of those questions into the statement, I am going to, and fill in your blanks. And I want you to sit in the presence of God and watch Him download the how. After you come into agreement with the fact that it's already done and that you've already affirmed it. Woo! Let me tell you something. I have so many more tips, so many more keys, so many more things that God has downloaded to me that I just love to share, right? I just love to put out. Why? Because we're all building together. And so because of that, I want you to have access and the opportunity. If you know that God is calling you to the next level and you're supposed to connect with community, you're supposed to be cultivated in your calling, I need you to go to the link in my description. Why? Because there are so many resources there. There's so many tools there. And I want to make sure that you have exactly what you need in this hour and during this time. Remember, you got the keys. And if you haven't subscribed yet, here are the keys right here that I want you to gain access to. So pass this on to someone you know who's been asking God, how am I going to? And let them know that they can change too into that I am going to statement that affirms, gives authority, and reminds them of exactly who the author is. All right, let's go.